All right, let's create backgrounds from our illustrations in Grease Pencil and make them static background. If they're not static background and you need interaction with the background, you can simply mask or do some cutouts. Okay, so right now, what we're looking at is the background right here, which is drawn by our student. And we're seeing some lines that goes in front of the foreground walk character because these are two separate strokes and there's no really preference between the two. They're blending in. Okay, so let's do this lesson where we can simplify the background and then we're just going to render it and use it. Okay, so let's first clean up our canvas right here. So the walk reference right here, we want to hide those. Our student already turned off the renderability, so we're not going to render them, but we don't want to see them right now. Okay, we're also going to turn off our character, not render it and not see it, so we're only seeing the background. Okay, so this background right now, this is live stroke. This is not an image. It's a vector image. It's a vector stroke right now. Okay, so what we want to do is just simply render this out and make it a static one. All right, so all we have to do here is first make sure you're watching this in final preview, final render. Okay, this is what your most of the issues we have with Grease Pencil is that they've been working on in solid mode right here, and then when they go to render, it looked different than their final render because they haven't been able to preview it. So their colors are based on preview, not the final render. So make sure you're here. When you're previewing in the final render, what you see is what you get. When you're working, it's fine to be here so you can work with your onion skin and whatnot, but previewing final render, always right here. Okay, so we go to render. Okay, and then we go to render image, and it just creates this render of the background, and it renders it based on the output resolution of 1920 by 1080, which is the default. So what can we do with this? We can now save this, save a copy. Okay, and you can change it to file format, whatever you want, JPEG, PNG, give it a name, whatever. Okay, I already saved this. I called it BG, and we're just going to bring that in. Okay, so make sure, very important, when you bring that in, you're not in draw mode, only in object mode. So a lot of you will not see that option because simply you're in other mode. Okay, so make sure you go to object mode. Once you're in object mode, go to add image and then mesh plane. We're not going to do reference or background. We're going to use mesh plane, and it will ask you which file you want to bring in as a mesh plane. There it is. Okay, and it's right there. You can't see it. So why are we bringing mesh plane? Well, we need to get started with learning parallax in a couple of weeks, and then it's one way to kind of introduce that. Okay, all right, so now that we brought it in, you can't see it, but you can see here it's the same aspect ratio as the canvas right here. So the background now we no longer need. We're not going to render the background, and we're not going to see it. But here it is, the background we just did. Okay, very important when you bring that in that you turn off your auto keying. Okay, and then park this on frame 1 because that thing's going to stay on frame 1. It's not going to move. Otherwise, everything that you do when you resize and reposition this, it will be animated. So make sure you turn that off. Okay, I'm going to bring my sidebar right now. Press N on the keyboard. Okay, and then right here on location, I'm just going to zero out everything so it's in the center. Okay, it's not a perfect number with the scale here, so I'm going to press S and then just kind of eyeball it until I get really close to the edge right there. And make sure you zoom in that you are not a hair too small, that you will see a white border all around. Okay, so there's the background. It is now just an image, a JPEG or a PNG. Okay, now we bring in our walk animation, turn on rendering, and voila, there is our walk, our animated foreground, and the background is a simple rendering of that one. And you can actually delete that if you want to. And then if you want to make this interactive, of course, we have ways to cut out the background. You're going to learn that when we do our parallax. Okay, so that's how you convert grease pencil stroke into background and actually use it as a background. You can animate this background, of course, and if you want other elements from it, and you don't want to draw this manually, you can bring in them as mesh planes also, and you can layer this one, because this is simply a 2D representation, but in reality, if I middle click drag this, that background is really an object right here. So you can do parallel. You can give it, you can move it further away, you can move it up front where it blocks your character, so your character can without masking, you can actually use object for foreground element. Okay, so I can cut out those clouds and then put them in front. Not that you would want to, but you can. Okay, all right, so that's how we can change our background strokes into image planes.